Try to block every shot, and I'm gonna be physical with you the whole game. You know Stu gonna be physical with you. When you think of the Pistons, you think just hard work and just gritty basketball. That's just the identity you gotta have when you put on that jersey.
I'm not your average breed of canine. Not a good dog, I'm bad boy for life. I set the tone, don't care about no tick. Let it be known, I get my respect. Come in the lane and see I don't bluff. If you retaliate, that's on ya. Talking pundits, I hear you're ashamed. Talking that shop, you must run this way. Put the dog palm, mess around, find out, Put the dog palm, mess around, find out, For somebody cute side, boy, you better cough a hill, cause I'm like that. When you're real for somebody cute side, boy, you better cough a hill, cause I'm like that. The dog palm, mess around, find
out. What up, though, Pistons fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Downtown Deuce Show. First and foremost, shout out to everybody who is here on this late Wednesday, early Thursday morning. The Pistons just finished up their matchup with the Oklahoma City Thunder, which began at 9:30 p.m. EST. So it was a late night start, late night finish, right? For those of you who stayed and watched this game, you watched a good one. It was a good game, right? Very competitive game. And I wanted to shout you guys out. And also I want to say, for everybody who lives in the Detroit metro area, please be careful. It is a lot of heavy storms right now. So hopefully everybody is inside. If you're not inside, please be careful on the roads because it is very slippery out and a little dangerous. So everybody, please be careful. All right. So as far as this game, the Pistons, they lost their second straight one to the Thunder, like I mentioned, 119-103 on the road. And they are now 42-34 on the regular season with 6 games left. And this was a little bit of a downer because this game was a nationally televised game on ESPN. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see both teams at full strength. The Thunder were at full strength, right? But the Pistons, obviously, due to last game suspension with the tussle against the Minnesota Timberwolves, they lost Isaiah Stewart for 2 games. The Pistons lost Ron Holland and Marcus Sasser also for tonight's game for their roles in that brawl on Sunday night. And on top of that, K was also unavailable for his 5th straight game. He's still dealing with that left calf contusion. And like I told you guys before, I'm not too concerned about it. I think the Pistons are just being precautious, being safe when it comes to these guys. They want these guys to be as close to 100% as possible for the playoffs. And I mean, on top of that, too, with the rotation not even being available, with guys like Stu, Ron Holland, Sasser, you got, guys who are missing. So it really didn't make sense to bring K back in this matchup, in a game where you're not even going to have your whole roster. You're not going to have the same rotations, same different consistency. All those things are not going to be there. So I understand why they didn't play him, especially on the road, against the best team in the league. And getting a win, honestly, wouldn't have helped the Pistons in the standings tonight because the Pacers won again. And they are continuing to win. So I don't think the Pistons are going to move up. And I don't think they're going to move down either, unless some very particular things happen, which we'll talk about. We'll get into that later. As far as Tobias Harris had missed a few games prior to tonight's game, and he did return tonight. But unfortunately, he left the game with the same injury that he was supposedly getting over, and that was right Achilles tendinopathy. I believe that's just like right Achilles soreness. I think the Achilles sometimes can get stretched a little too far, and I think that maybe would have happened. The thing that's kind of concerning is that you never want to see a guy come back from an injury and then leave mid-game with the same injury. That a lot of time seems like a re-aggravation, right? Which you might think maybe somebody got brought back too early. So I don't know if he got brought back too early or not. I don't know if he just turned wrong or something like that. Maybe it's a tweak. But either way, if I'm not playing Tobias Harris until the last game of the season. Last game or 2 of the season. The Pistons got 6 left, so I'm giving him a week off. I'm giving him a week or 2 off. The Pistons' first game, I believe, is in 17 days. Playoff game, 17 days. So I'm definitely getting him some rest. as much rest as he feels he needs and the doctors feel he needs, because the last thing we need to be is undermanned going into the playoffs for the first time with this new team, right? Want to go in with confidence, want to go in with consistency, want to go in with the rotation that you have been successful with all year long, right? So to not have one of your guys available to start the playoffs can really get you off on the wrong foot, right? And it could be a very quick playoff run for this team if that happens. So hopefully that's not the case, and hopefully they get him back healthy as soon as possible. Shout out to everybody here. DG, I see you, man. Ryan P, what's going on, bro? Everybody who's here, man, I appreciate you guys showing up and showing out as you always do. Let's get to some of these details in this game, man. Let's get to my initial thoughts of this game. So let me just get this out the way, y'all. I was not at all, in any way, shape, or form, mad at this loss at all. This is probably the happiest I've been after a loss all year, right? All year. When you consider how understaffed the Pistons were, when you consider who they were playing, when you consider this is game 66 of the season, when whether you win or lose is not going to change anything really for you in the standings, all those things considered, I'm not upset, because all I asked for with these important games the Pistons have played, right? This game, the previous game against the T-Wolves, the game against the Cavs before that, I just asked for respectability, right? Just don't get blown off the floor, right? Play your strengths regardless of who's in the court. Have that first next man up mentality, and just show these teams that you're not a pushover anymore. Show these teams that you are going to be a force to be reckoned with, and this is not the team from last season. That's all I asked for. And I felt like tonight the Pistons did that. I really felt like they did that. They brought the energy, they brought the effort, they brought the fight. You think about the Thunder, they're one of the best teams. They are, record-wise, the best team in the league by far. You know, they are the top defensive team with plenty of depth, plenty of stars. They're number one in every statistical category defensively that matters. The way they play is very similar to how we play. They lead with their defense. They get out in transition. And at the level that they do it is where the Pistons are trying to get to. The Thunder are better at this style of play than the Pistons are. And that's because they've been together longer. They've had more time. They've had better roster construction over the past couple of years to find guys who fit, right, the scheme defensively and offensively that they try to play. The Thunder are just better at it right now, as they should be. They've had more time together. And when you think about it, though, they've built around their young stars, and they just developed those guys. You think about Shea, you think about Chet, Jalen Williams. Like, these are all guys who they went and got in the draft or traded for very early after the draft and built around those guys, right? We know that Shea came from the Clippers deal, but he's been here since he's been there since the beginning of his career, basically, since he really began to ascend. So in my opinion, this was the best loss of the year. You know, the Pistons down 30% of their rotation, basically. Nobody expected them to come into the Thunder's arena and beat them, especially them being fully healthy and at home, right? So I just wanted for something respectable, and the Pistons absolutely gave us that. It was very admiring, very admirable watching them play tonight, because you saw from a mental standpoint, they played like they felt they could win the game, even though they didn't have all their guys. And like I mentioned, the playoffs are already cemented. So right now, health and consistency and reps and chemistry, those are the things you really want to be focusing on. Whoever's in the game, develop that playoff mentality now, right? Develop good habits on the court now. Develop more chemistry with the teammates now. Now is the time for that. And also allowing for different lineups, allowing guys to play with different lineups, right? In case you need to go to something different in the playoffs that you may not expect, right? In case, you know, something happens to a guy, they tweak an ankle, or something happens injury-wise, or if guys get in foul trouble, you never know what's going to happen. And so it's very important to always have guys who have played together and not just guys who are used to playing with their particular unit, right? Having that versatility, that is how you have that next man up mentality, because you literally can have a guy come right in and fill the need and fill the gap because he's had reps to be able to play with other guys, right? So the Pistons are doing their due diligence. They're really tweaking, experimenting, and really just prepping for the playoffs. And tonight, I was proud, man. Watching this game, I was proud. I was proud of this team. It wasn't perfect. It was a lot of mistakes, right? Defensive breakdowns and things like that. But once again, you got guys who have not played together, not just offensively, but defensively too. So despite that, though, this game was still competitive because the Pistons continued to fight. They did not pack this game in. Many times they could have packed this game in, right? But they didn't. It looked like at times it may get away from them. This game was pretty much between the 10 to 15 point range for most of the game, right? As far as the deficit for the Pistons. The Thunder had a comfortable lead for most of the game. They hit first, right? The Pistons called a timeout early in this game, 11-4, they went down. And it was an uphill battle all night, right? I mean, for obvious reasons. For the Pistons to even hang close in this game was saying a lot. But they fought. They fought. They just ran into a better team. And that's okay. That happens. And so like I mentioned, it was okay. I was literally had no emotion, had no negative emotion. Toward the end of the game, I was like, man, the Pistons late in this game had a chance to win it. They were down 4 points late in this game. They just could not get over the hump. They couldn't tie the score and take a lead. They just could not do that on multiple occasions when they got the score to about 5 or 4 in the third quarter and fourth quarter. They just couldn't get over the hump, right? So that's why I wasn't bothered by this loss. I was actually encouraged by this loss. But there is another reason why I really was not bothered by this loss at all. Like at all. So stick around for that. We'll get to that at the end of the show. But with that being said, like I said, I was very, very encouraged. So let's get to the box score. Take a look at some individual performances and see how this game kind of turned out from an individual standpoint, a micro standpoint. I'm going to take a look at a few comments here as I do that. Organic Lindo says, would like to see JD assert himself in the first half like he did in the second half. I agree with that. Why does Schroeder was arguing? I don't know what he was arguing with Shea about. It looked like it was a particular call. They were arguing. It didn't look like it was anything hostile. It looked like they were just kind of trying to understand each other. And Shea wanted to be understood for whatever it was. I think it was a foul call that was called. Schroeder didn't think it was a foul. And then Shea was talking to him about why it was a foul. So it wasn't anything major. DG says this season feels like the season this OKC team had where they made the play-in a few years ago. I can see a huge jump next season. They didn't add any big pieces either. Exactly, DG. The OKC are built on defense, sharing the basketball, playing around their star in depth, getting out in transition. All the same things the Pistons are trying to build right now is what OKC is. They're just a year or two ahead, a few years ahead. And that's really the main difference. They've had time. They've had a chance to build with each other. They've had a chance to tweak the roster. They were able to capitalize on their draft talent quicker than the Pistons were. They were able to build around the guys they got in the draft better and quicker than the Pistons were. I think that is the biggest difference between these two teams, right? They haven't had multiple coaches since Chet and Shea and Jalen Williams have been in the league. They haven't had roster turnover. They didn't have 28 different starting lineups from the time they came into the league, right, in one season. They didn't have 28 different lineups in one season like the Pistons had, right? They had consistency. They were able to build and learn and play together. And like I always say, you can't shortcut that. Regardless of how much talent you have, you can't shortcut that part of it. You just can't. You have to go through that part of it. OKC has gone through most of that. And now you're seeing how, with time, their young talent can really grow together and build together. And that's what we see. And that's exactly what the Pistons are on the same journey, the same roadmap to getting to. It's the same thing. So I'm happy to see them continue to fight and them continue to build this roster in a very similar way. We haven't developed the bail you out whistles like OKC has. That charge on Duran in the fourth was a trap. Yeah, man, we're going to get to that. The foul calling and officiating was bad. It was bad. The fact that we kept this a ball game without Stu, K, Tobias getting injured, it was not a bad ball game. Exactly. Also without Ron Holland. Also without Sasser. Right? We missing like 5 guys tonight. And the Thunder were fully staffed and we still made it a game. Right? So proud of this team, says Joshua, 100%. Let's see. I didn't hear them mention Isaiah Stewart or Ron Holland on ESPN tonight. Only person they mentioned was Cade. Right. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get to one more comment and then we'll get to the individual box scores. Dominic Davis, my guy, you always show me love and I'm always thankful for you, bro. Let's see what you're talking about tonight. Missing key rotation players, mental error turnovers, defensive lapses, OKC playing suffocating defense, and yet it was a 4-point game before that terribly called Duran offensive foul. You guys are mentioning the same exact things. Yep. Man, that deflated me, but good effort. Yeah, like Dominique, bro, like I'm not even bothered. Like as you get into the game and you see you got a chance to win it late, that's when I started really getting emotional about it. But like coming into this game, I wasn't bothered at all. Like I was very chill. I had no anxiety watching this game. I didn't expect to win, but that's not why I didn't have anxiety. I just wasn't. It didn't really hurt us. It didn't really hurt us to lose this game, right? So I definitely agree with you there as far as missing rotation guys and still keeping it a game. But you're right. A lot of mental error turnovers. And I think a lot of that, again, is because you got guys like Schroeder continuing to learn how to play with the starters. And then once Schroeder goes to the bench, you have no point guard because your other 2 point guards on this team, Kate Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, are not available, right? So once you go to the bench, you have nobody to really back up Dennis Schroeder because he is the backup. And we didn't have Sasser because of the suspension. So we really were depleted across the board. For us to be in this game, I got to give Coach a lot of credit. I got to give Coach a lot of credit for his rotations and for keeping this team motivated. This Coach is not going to allow or tolerate guys to pack it in. It doesn't matter who's available. It doesn't matter where you're playing or who you're playing or who you don't have available or who they do. He's going to make sure this team is ready and they're playing to win. Like that's what I see with Coach Bickerstaff. He does not allow this team to pack it in. He will not have it. You will sit down if you do that. And you saw tonight, whenever they made a defensive breakdown, he was on their tail. I love it. I love what he's bringing to this team, man. Just the mindset. Never say die mentality. I love it. But you're right, Dominique. OKC playing suffocating defense. Yes, bro. Like they are who the Pistons want to be. OKC is who the Pistons are aspiring to be. From their depth to their star to their defense to their getting out in transition. All of it. Moving the basketball for the best shot. They got great shooters too. They're a really good team. That is who the Pistons are trying to get. That's where they're trying to get to. And to finish it off, Dominic says, and yet all that, despite that, it was a 4-point game before that terribly called Duren offensive foul. Yeah, Duren couldn't get any love tonight, man. He could not get any love. I think JD may be kind of hurting himself because he's always doing this. But he does get fouled a lot. He was getting mugged again tonight. But you can't do this every time you miss a shot. Like that's literally gonna be, if he's not careful, identified to the refs as calling wolf. And then when you do get fouled hard and you do this, they're gonna think it's just like every other time when you go like this, when it's not a foul. So I really hope he stops doing that because it's not really working in his favor. You're not gonna get a foul call if they don't call it immediately and you do this. That's not gonna help you get a foul call at that point. It doesn't matter, right? So, but aside from that, that was a bad call, bro. Terrible call on JD. He literally just made a spin move. I hate when that happens, when you got little guys on you, and normally when you turn with your elbow, that's going into a guy's chest, and it's bumping him off. But with the little guy, that's going into his throat because he's so much shorter, and that is perceived as an offensive foul, as if JD did something wrong when he turned. He just didn't. The guy just happened to be shorter and got hit in the wrong spot. That's really all that happened. So that's unfortunate for JD. He does not get a lot of love right now. He's not getting a lot of respect. He will eventually as the Pistons keep winning. As of right now, you just got to deal with it. But Dominic, you summed this game up in the nutshell very, very well. That is a lot of what happened tonight, and even a lot of what you're feeling is how I feel too, because even though we lost the game, it doesn't really hurt us in the standings, and we got a chance to get guys who don't normally play together more reps, right? And we got to see what these guys are made of, right? We got to see, like I mentioned earlier with the starters, we got to push these guys to the limit to see what they can and can't handle. Same thing with these guys like Schroeder and Bees and THJ, who played great tonight. Like, this is a chance to see what they can bring us in the playoffs if we need them to, right? What can they do consistently as far as increasing their role in case we have an injury? What can they do consistently that we need them to? And I think this is a good opportunity to see that now before the playoffs start, so they are prepared just in case. So, Dominique, great points, bro. And as always, I appreciate your support, man, for sure. All right, let's go ahead and get to the box score. Take a look at some individuals, and then we'll get to some standings, and we'll call it a night because it is late. All right. So let's start with Dennis Schroeder. So Schroeder had 15 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 turnovers on 6 for 18 shooting, 1 of 7 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line in 40 minutes. So Schroeder led the team with 40 minutes. And once again, guys, why did he play 40 minutes? Because he was the only available point guard. This is exactly why before we got Schroeder, this is why Cade was playing 38 minutes a game, 40 minutes a game, because he was the only available point guard before Schroeder got here with Jaden being hurt, right? So we see once again the importance of having depth on this team. And tonight he played good. he played a good game. He didn't play an efficient game, but he played an overall solid basketball game, right? The things that the Pistons ask of him to do, he's trying his best to do that. And once again, doing it understaffed is tough. When you're trying to step into a starting role and you have guys like the guys you're playing with are getting more minutes than they usually do, so you don't have many reps with them either, it makes it tough. Like, Shooter's used to playing with a Ron Holland. He's used to playing with a Stu. He's used to playing with those guys that weren't available. He's used to playing at times even with Sasser for offensive sets. So having to play with different guys like Lindy Waters or Paul Reed or Fontecchio, it makes it harder for guys like Shooter to even build any chemistry, because even the bench guys that he plays with, he's not really playing with. So not only is he playing with starters that he doesn't usually play with, he's also playing with bench guys that he doesn't usually. So it's tough for him in that situation to really have have more impact than he would like to have as much, because he just doesn't have that consistency and chemistry with those guys. But despite that, he was still solid, man. 15 points, 7 assists, only 2 turnovers. I mean, I think once he saw early his shot was not falling, he started getting to the rim at will. He started getting to the basket at will. They could not stay in front of him. It really didn't matter who it was. They could not stay in front. And he was getting to the paint. Toward the end of the game, when he was gassed, you could see he was getting tired, and you see Chet, swat one of his shots away. But you can see once again, these guys are trying to shoulder more offensive load. And you saw them at times kind of getting a little bit outside of their depth as to what they can do. They were trying to bring it, but that's just a little bit too much that was missing for them to try to make up for. So he tried. He definitely tried his best. He brought it on both ends of the floor. Defensively, he brought it too. Like, these guys were all bringing defensively. I love to see it. So Shooter was solid tonight. He was good. He wasn't great because he didn't shoot it well, but impact-wise, he did what you would want him to do. All right, let's move to Tim Hardaway Jr., man. Tim Hardaway Jr. tonight was cooking again. Cooking again, man. I don't even just mean how many points he scored, but the efficiency with THJ continues to impress. He picked up a lot of the slack tonight offensively with so many guys being out, right? He had 23 points tonight to go, which led the team again. I believe last game he had 32. And tonight he had 23 on 3 boards, 3 assists, 4 fouls, shooting 8 for 14 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, 2 for 2 from the free throw line in 37 minutes. So all of our starters, other than Tobias, who got hurt, played heavy minutes. And like I mentioned, man, he had it going offensively. He was knocking down threes. I think in the first quarter he knocked down back-to-back threes. And it's like once he makes one and he gets the ball in the next play, he's knocking it down. And maybe even a third time, which we see him do multiple times this season. It wasn't perfect for Tim. There were some plays you saw him kind of, break down defensively. He would miss some assignments, blow some assignments defensively. On one play, you saw Asar in the first quarter was really annoyed with him on a defensive breakdown, and he was kind of pointing to him, telling him where to be. And also on another play, you saw Timmy didn't box out at the end of the first half, which allowed Lou Dort to get a tip-in, an offensive tip-in at the buzzer to end the half. And the Pistons were down 4 at that point. So that bucket kind of was a little bit deflating. So it wasn't perfect for Tim. But like I mentioned, he shouldered a lot of the offensive load, right? So, and he was still giving his defense. He was still giving his body up, trying to draw charges and things like that. So you can't ask for everything. You're not going to get everything, right? And if you think about it, THJ was not even projected to start this year. So for him to give us what he's given us, you can't really ask for more. He's really tried to step in and do what he can to help the team, but not doing too much to where he's hurting the team. So Tim Hardaway Jr. has continued to be a great asset to this team this season, especially with guys out. Let's move to Asar Tasmanian Thompson. He had 13 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. Once again, stuffing his stat sheet as usual. 4 turnovers on 5 for 12 shooting, 0 for 1 from 3. 3 of 3 from the free throw line in 30 minutes. So 3 of 3 from the free throw line is good. I love to see that with him. Anything as far as with his shooting that is solid, I love to see it because that means that he's continuing to work at it. And the better he gets, the better of a player he's going to be and more versatile for this team. So, yeah, so his splits were solid. I'd like to see that from Asar. I'd like to see him be aggressive, but also want to see him be controlled. And over the last 3 or 4 games, he's averaging 15 points, 6 assists, or 6 rebounds, and 1 steal. So that's solid, right? That's good. That's improvement, and consistent improvement. And guys, once he becomes consistent, like once he gets that consistency on both sides of the ball to where it's not always just so high and low and peak and valley with him, he's going to be very, very good. Right now, his game is just very polarizing. It's hot and cold, right? He makes a lot of great plays defensively, a lot of great offensive, plays, and then he makes a ton of, sloppy offensive plays, right? So it's like it's great plays and then it's bad plays. Great plays, and he made more good plays than bad plays tonight. Especially defensively. He was really getting after guys, man, getting after Shea, just getting after everybody. And he was just a disruption again. And he always is a disruption whenever he plays, whenever he's in the court. He's just disruptive. That's why he's Tasmanian Thompson. But offensively, he was still a little bit loosey-goosey with the basketball, right? Still moving too fast, especially he had a few fast break plays where I think it was a one-on-one or one-on-two, and he tried to go behind his back, he'd lose the ball, or he'd move too quickly and he'd bobble out of bounds. So once he gets that consistency of who he is, as far as just being a positive on the court, much more than a negative, he'll be a really, really good player. As of right now, it's tough for him because it's just so high and low. And that's because he's still understanding who he needs to be and what he needs to do and when he needs to do it for this team. And that takes time, once again. So it's going to take more time, especially to go along with his jump shot. It's going to take him time to really become the guy that we want to see him become in his prime. But he's far and away from that. It's going to take a lot of time, a couple years for him to get to that point. As long as we see that slow incremental growth from him over time, I can live with that because he has such a high ceiling. You got to kind of just live with it. We mentioned Tobias Harris, man, and it's unfortunate to see him go down tonight because he was playing solid tonight too. He had 10 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 turnovers, 5 for 8 shooting, 0 for 1 from 3 in 22 minutes. So in the time that he played, he was good. He was good. He was steady on both ends of the court. He wasn't doing too much. He was trying to be impactful in more ways outside of just scoring. He was doing that. His 4 rebounds and 2 assists, he was doing that. And I'd like to see that. Unfortunately, he just went down. That's the biggest thing for him right now. So hopefully the Pistons can get him back sooner than later. And hopefully they don't rush him back this time because it seemed like he may have been rushed. Like I mentioned, whenever you see guys come back from an injury and then leave the game again with that same injury, it kind of speaks to the fact that they may have come back too soon. So at this point, with him being, on the back end of his career, not a spring chicken anymore, take all the time you need to take to get healthy, period. That's all that matters. If it means you got to go all the way to the last game of the season just to get him 15, 20 minutes to get him to shake the rust off and to get back into that rhythm, I'll do that. But I'm not bringing him back premature at this point. It's just too much at stake. The Pistons have come too far to put themselves in position to be in playoff contention to just go out in 4 games or 5 games because they lost their starting 4. Right? So whatever you got to do to get healthy at this juncture, you do that and you live with the results because the Pistons, standing-wise, are not going to be affected too much on the winning side if they win a lot of games at this point going forward because the teams above them are winning at the same rate. So get well, Tobias, bro. Feel better. Get that calf or that Achilles under control. All right, let's get to our last starter, Jalen Duren. JD had 13 points. 13 rebounds for another double-double. He is second in the league. He has 3 assists, 1 steal. He had 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He did have 6 turnovers, which is way too much. Way too much. He shot 3 for 10 from the field. He shot 7 for 10 from the free throw line, which is solid, in 34 minutes. So I want to start with this. He was very, very active in the paint. JD, once again, his mental approach to the game has been very, very consistent, right? It hasn't always been great and perfect execution-wise, right? He still has a ways to go defensively to get to the level we want to see him get to, like all these other guys. But you see the mentality. You see the effort. He was active all game in the paint, right? He was challenging at the rim every shot, right? Help side, he was coming over, trying to get every shot and hoping and banking on his helper helping him, getting the offensive or getting the defensive rebound, right? He was also attacking the glass offensively. He was attacking the ball, man, attacking the rim. Every time the shot went up, he was attacking it, trying to get a tap out, trying to get an offensive rebound. I was happy with the effort, man. And he was getting mugged, guys. He was getting mugged, grabbed, slapped, pushed, all in the paint tonight. It was insane. Like, I know he was doing this. I don't like seeing this, but I understand why, because he just doesn't get any respect, man. He does not get any respect. And I could hear the slaps through my flat screen, right? It was crazy. A few plays, he was trying to go after offensive rebound, and you could see his guy literally grabbing his arm, preventing him from getting the offensive rebound, and the Pistons don't get the ball. It was bad, man. I know why. The Pistons got to earn the respect, but he did not get a lot of respect tonight. I got to start with that. But the effort was there. Now, I want to get to this. Chet is a tough cover. Chet Holmgren is a tough cover, man, because of his quickness. Like JD was trying his best to stay with him, but Chet is he's man, he's tough. He's 7 foot legit. He's a legit 7-footer, but he's built like a 6'7" guy, 6'8" guy, a wing. So if you split the difference, you've got a talented stretch four. And JD is more of a traditional big, right? Chet is more of a hybrid type big, but he's taller than JD. That's what's crazy. And so his size and athleticism make him really tough to stay in front of and to cover. And I think I said it before, guys. I think the Pistons, as of right now, are missing their Chet on this team. Their stretch four, right? That's why I kept talking about Naz Reid, that type of guy, type of forward to go alongside JD long term, right? I love Tobias, but you can't teach height. In the East, you guys already know, the East have very big front court. So you got to have the size to be able to battle with that. And so the Pistons need that versatile big with shooting ability, right? With size, who can also help JD protect the paint defensively, who can help with guarding on the perimeter defensively in spots when you need to get a defensive stop, right? And then guys who can stretch the floor. That's the prototype I want the Pistons to go after, right? They can't get Chet, obviously, but that's why I want a guy like Naz Reid, who wouldn't be as expensive, right? Who can still do a lot of the same things. So that's really what I'm hoping to see. But like I said, it was tough cover for JD, man. He's tough. He's very, very tough. He's got very, very quick foot speed, very, very quick lateral movement, and he's a good ball handler for his size. So he's just very, very tough. He can shoot the ball inside, outside, 3-level scorer. He can knock down his free throws. He's really good. He's really, really good, man. I got to give him credit because he has really developed. He was out for much of last season, I think, the season before that. So it's just good to see that, guys like him are able to come back from injury and still have, a great start to their career. So, yeah, it was tough for JD, man. Very, very tough. But on the bright side, the Pistons don't have their Chet yet, right? But on the bright side, the Pistons do have, in my opinion, their version of Jalen Williams, right? The more I watch Jalen Williams, the more I see a little bit more and more of Jaden Ivey, right? Williams is listed as a small forward, right? But he's 6'5". And I think he's a guy where you can see a lot of similarities with Jaden. Both of those guys are strong. Both of those guys are athletic. Both of those guys are long, right? And they like to get downhill, but they can also stretch the floor. They can play make, and they bring defensive versatility. Both of those guys have all of those attributes. Now, I will say this. Get it out the way, right? Jalen Williams right now is a better defender than Jaden, right? I had to give him that. But when you think about the jump that all the starters have made for the Pistons, the young guys, like JD, for example, like the defensive jump we've seen him take this year, we talked about it last game, just the defensive IQ improving, it makes me confident that guys like Jaden can make a similar jump. Every young guy made a jump. Kate made a jump this year. Asar is still making his jump. JD made a jump, right? So you're seeing guys continuing to get better. The core 4, the core 5 guys, Stu made a jump. Even Rod Holland made a jump this year, right? And he really couldn't have went anywhere but up as a rookie, but he had a serious jump as a rookie this season. So I think Jaden, there's no reason to think he wouldn't have had a jump as well. And I think his jump would have come on the defensive end as much as it would have come on the offensive end, especially with a coach like Bickerstaff, right? So you think about Jalen Williams, he became an all-star this season. And as of right now, he is the clear-cut number 2 on a team with the best record by far in the league, led by an MVP-level backcourt mate, on a deep team that is also the best defensive team in the league. That sound familiar? Like, there's no reason that all those things that I just mentioned cannot be true a few years from now with Jaden Ivey as your Jalen Williams, Cade Cunningham as your Shea, and that deep defensive team can be the Detroit Pistons. I also think that Jaden has more upside, a higher ceiling than a guy like Jalen Williams because of just his natural ability. Very, very raw offensively. So I think that is going to help him going forward. I think the Pistons are building this team the right way. So we'll leave it there for now, but I do think the Pistons have the number 2 to go along with Cade. I said that hundreds of times already, but watching Jalen Williams tonight, I see a lot of the same attributes in a similar path for guys like Jaden to make his mark on a great team going forward in the NBA. So I'll leave that there, and let's go ahead and get to some more comments, and then we'll go to the bench. Heisenberg Blue says, I was watching the game from the above the rim camera on ESPN, and you could audibly hear the smacks and hacks on JD. Exactly, bro. I was watching the same thing and hearing the same thing. It was terrible. It was bad. Like, he has to work on, once he catches the rebound, once he gets an offensive rebound, you cannot bring it back down. You cannot bring it back down. Whether you get fouled or not, that's one thing Rasheed Wallace was great at. He would get the offensive rebound and keep it up high and go straight back up. JD has a tendency to bring the ball down and gather. You got to gather up here. You got to gather up here. You come down here, you're probably going to lose it because now you're down with the guards. They're closer to the ground, and they're going to get that ball from you if you bring it down. And if they don't, they're going to slap you. And if you're not getting calls, either way, it's not a score, right? So he has to work on that. But even with that, he was not getting a lot of love at all. At all, man. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's see. Devon says, JJJ will be a Piston. That's your guy. You've been talking about him forever. Memphis firing Jenkins just helped us, especially if they do bad next year. That's interesting. That's interesting. I know that's your guy, so we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, Memphis is a dumpster fire. I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they did that. That was very, very puzzling as far as that firing. Marvin says, I was thinking the same thing. Okay, so y'all like JJJ, huh? That must be your guy. Devin says we need Rasheed Wallace at coach for JD, same way he helped Drummond. Exactly. And Rasheed, unfortunately, Sheed is not on good terms with the Pistons right now. I saw something recently with him on a podcast, and he said that he messes with the players, like his teammates and some of the young guys, but him and the front office and the organization, they don't really mess with each other. So unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. I wish it would, because Rasheed Wallace was an assistant coach for Jalen Duren in college when JD went to Memphis. Right? Penny Hardaway was the coach, and Larry Brown and Rasheed Wallace were the assistants. So Rasheed knows JD very, very well. Very, very well. So that would be a match made in heaven to have him here on the court with him in practice and just learning from him and watching film and just teaching him how to be a better player all around would be great. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So we got to make do what we got. And that's no shade at the coaching staff right now because they've done a great job. I just think having a guy like Rasheed who's played the game, played that position, would do wonders for a guy like JD. So hopefully we can make something happen like that long term and getting a guy like that. I think that'd be great for JD. All right. You guys keep saying Lauri Markkanen. I don't like Lauri Markkanen, honestly. He doesn't fit to me. He doesn't fit the gritty mentality. He's too much of a finesse player in my mind, right? I don't want finesse players to go along with a defensive team, right? Even our star, Cade, is not a finesse player. He's a physical player that can play finesse. He can do anything. But for guys like Lauri Markkanen, if you think back to what I was saying I wanted to have in my stretch four, I want a tough guy. I want a guy who can get buckets, but also who is not afraid to mix it up, not afraid to dive on the floor, not afraid to stick his nose in and grab boards, not afraid to put a hard foul on somebody if needed. Let them know there's going to be resistance every time at the rim. Like, that's the kind of guy I want. Isaiah Stewart with more natural ability, because we know Isaiah Stewart is going to max out all his ability. But if we can get a guy just more naturally offensively gifted to go along with that, now we're talking. Now we're talking, right? Marvin says Sheed and JD already connected. Exactly. That's why it'd be a match made in heaven. JD has so much potential. Monolando says we keep forgetting he's 21. I haven't. You're right, but I haven't. I've been preaching that all year long. All year long. When guys are saying they wanted to trade him or swap him out with guys like Hartenstein or Nick Claxton, I'm like, nah, bro. No, you got to give these guys time. And he still needs a lot of time. He's shown a lot of growth, but it's still a long way to go. But that's why you got to be patient. Look at how patience has worked out for the Thunder. All right, so let's keep it moving. We will go to the bench, and then we will call it a night. So let's move on to, and we're only a few guys we're going to talk about here, guys, because we didn't get a lot of bench production, obviously, with the guys being out. But let's start with Bees. Bees had 11 points tonight. He had one board on 4-15 shooting, 3-10 from 3, and 33 minutes. So once again, guys, Bees struggled with his shot. He struggled again. And once again, much like I mentioned with Tim Hardaway Jr., who made some uncharacteristic defensive blown assignments, which we don't usually see, because he had to carry so much more offensively. I think the same thing kind of happened with Bees. Bees is, whenever you see Beasley on this team not shooting well, look at what he did defensively. Look at the effort defensively. Now, he's not a defensive stopper. He's at best an average defensive player. right? He's one of the best shooters in the world, average defensive player at best. But energy and effort can go a long way for a guy like him. And to see him playing good, solid team defense, like whenever you see him sweating up a storm, that's how you know he's really giving it all. He's giving everything defensively, right? And tonight he looked gassed. He looked tired. A lot of the shots you see him knocking down, coming off screens, just didn't fall because defensively he was giving everything that he had. So in 33 minutes is a lot for him. He doesn't usually play that many. So going all out defensively for 33 minutes is going to affect your legs as a jump shooter, which he is, right? Big guys, they shoot from up here. It's waist up for big guys. But for guards, they generate that energy from their legs. So when you don't have that because you're tired, it's going to affect you. So it wasn't that he didn't give the effort. It was there. The effort just affected his offense. The defensive effort affected his offense, and he really couldn't get anything going. So it happens. It happens. So no issues with him. Once again, a lot of these guys were asked to play in roles that they're not used to playing because of how depleted we were. So you got to live with it. So no big deal for me in my mind there at all with Beasley. Let's go to Fontecchio. Fontecchio tonight had 6 points. He had 1 assist, 1 block, 1 for 4 shooting, 2 from 3, 4 from the free throw line in 12 minutes. So Fontecchio played solid tonight, man. He played a good game. I have to give him credit tonight. He didn't. And once again, he didn't shoot the ball great. He took 4 shots. He only made 1. He missed both of his threes. But impact plays. He had an assist. He had a nice block. He was helping the helper a lot. He didn't really have any rebounds, but whenever you would see JD come over help side and you would see JD's guy, the guy that JD was helping off of, the big, try to go get the board, you see Fontecchio come over and just tap the ball away from him and not allow the offensive rebound to be had. So he made effort plays. And I mentioned earlier, he's going to make an impact on this team with effort plays, not with being a versatile playmaker, a finesse playmaker, putting the ball on the floor and making, no, that's not how he's going to be effective. He has to do the little things. And he has committed to doing that. And he has to get credit for that because once again, it's not about your scoring. It's about how you impact in the game if you're not scoring. So he did that. He's continued to be solid the last couple of weeks. It hasn't been great, but it's been much better in comparison to most of the season pre-All-Star break. So I got to give Fontecchio credit. All right. Let's go to 2 more guys, and we'll call it a night after we look at the standings. All right, so Paul Reed. Guys, Paul Reed stepped in admirably tonight. He played 15 minutes, and in those 15 minutes, he had 9 points, 9 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block, 2 turnovers, on 3 or 4 shooting, 3 or 4 from the free throw line. You can't ask for much more for Paul Reed, man. Like, he played 15 minutes, and he gave a lot of effort. Once again, he didn't have a great offensive game. Right? It was a few times where he looked a little bit lost, a few times where he just wasn't able to make the right play. He was trying to make the right play, but he couldn't execute it properly. Right? And once again, he doesn't play a lot. So asking him to come in and play heavy minutes against the best team in the NBA is a lot to ask. But once again, the 9 rebounds is what I'm looking at. He did a better job, in my opinion, tonight guarding Chet than JD did. And that's just because Paul Reed is nimble, man. For his size, playing the 4, he's very quick on his feet, very athletic. He's got a lot of bounce in his legs. So he's able to move his feet. And laterally, he's able to really stay in front of Chet. He's not quite as big, but he can stay in front. So I got to give him credit for his effort. He was all on the boards, had a nice block, had a nice steal, only 2 turnovers, and he had 9 points on 3 or 4 shooting. So there's room for growth there with B-Ball Paul, but I have to give him credit. You're not expecting Paul Reed to come into a game and give you a double-double, right, against the Thunder in 15 minutes. But he gave it pretty much a double-double in 15 minutes. So you got to give him credit for what he did effort-wise. We're not going to ask of him too much probably to play as much as he did tonight, but this is why you have him. When you have guys down, like I mentioned before, when you have situations in the playoffs that you're not used to, it puts you behind the 8 ball. So to be able to get guys like this quality minutes now when they don't normally can be a good preparation and confidence piece for them as you go into the playoffs, if that does happen and you need them. So more than anything, that's what I was looking for in this game, just to give guys opportunity, keep these guys fresh, and go into the playoffs healthy. And tonight, Paul was solid, so he deserves credit for that as well. Last guy, Lindy Waters, played 3 minutes. He played 18 minutes, and he had 3 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 of 4 shooting overall, 1 of 3 from 3. So he didn't get a ton of shots. It looked like he was in the game more so for defensive purposes, And he had some good moments. There's some times where he looked a little bit lost again, but I do think he can be an important rotational piece for this team in the future because he has length, he has size, and he plays good defense. He played Shea pretty tough in the possessions that he had to guard him, and so I liked what he provides. He seems to understand what the Pistons are trying to do defensively, right? I didn't see him getting lost in rotations defensively, anything like that. He was making the right reads, making the right switches, and he communicates as well. So I liked what I saw from him. He had a 1-3 from the corner he knocked down fading away. He's got a clip. He only made 1 or 3 tonight, but as he can, if he gets more opportunity, with these guys, if he's able to get some reps with these guys consistently, I think he can be very much a knockdown shooter for this team and a pretty good defensive player for this team too. So it's good to see him getting minutes too. Okay, so let's see. Now let's go ahead. You guys said I would do that trade. Which trade? Organic, yeah, I would do that trade. Somebody let me know which trade you guys are talking about. I'm going to go ahead and get to the standings, and then we will go ahead and call it a night. All right, so let's take a look at the standings. I see you guys going crazy in the comments with the trade proposals that are never going to happen. I'm dead. All right, let's check out the standings, and then we'll get to why I really was not bothered, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't that bothered by tonight, and we're going to talk about why as far as the loss. The Pacers won again, guys. They won again tonight, and the Pistons have lost 2 straight. So we are not going to catch the Pacers, guys. It's 3 games in between us and the Pacers. They're 16 back of Cleveland. We're 19 back, so we're not going to catch them, right? It's not going to happen. With 6 games left, we're not going to catch them. I don't even think we can at this point. We can. We can catch them, but it's very, very unlikely. We would need them to lose 3 games and we win 3 games. Like, the likelihood of that happening is very, very low. So I don't see that happening. What I can see happening, though, we are not out of the hunt, and we are not out of the woods, rather, when it comes to the 6th seed. That is what I'm looking at. And once again, you guys know who I want to play, who I wanted to play. You know who I do not want to play. I don't want to play the Pacers on the road. I don't want to play them at all in the first round, but especially on the road. First playoff series for this team, no experience. They've been there before, and they're at home. I don't think that's a good recipe. I would much rather play a Knicks team who is really struggling right now. That's who I would rather play. I think we match up better, and I think Cade would have a hell of a series. And once again, we would have much more national media eyes and attention on us. Stephen A. Smith would be on First Take every single morning at the top of the show. After every Knicks Pistons game in the playoffs, that will be the headliner. So I think the Pistons are best suited to play the Knicks, and they are only a half game up on the Bucks. So things can get very, very interesting down the stretch, and that's why I was not mad with this loss, because now we are only a half game back of being in the 6th seed, which is where I want to be, because I want the Knicks. And we are currently losing the regular season head-to-head matchup with the Bucks. They've won. We're 0-2 against them this year. So if we end up with the same record with them as at the end of the year, they're going to win the tiebreaker. Therefore, they're going to have the 5th spot and we'll have the 6th spot. And we do play 2 more games against the Bucks to end of the year. Our last 2 games are against the Bucks. So that could be those last 2 games, it could come down to those last 2 games as far as where we are and as far as who we play. If I'm the Pistons, I'm letting Cade rest. If it comes down to that, I'm letting Cade rest. I'm playing Cade 10 minutes, those last 15, 20 minutes tops, those last 2 games. And I'm hoping that, I won't say I'm hoping, but I would not be mad at all if the Bucks win one of those 2 games at least to put us in a position to where we are at 6. I'm not afraid to say it. I have no shame in my game. That's where I'm at with it. That's what I want to see. It just makes the most sense to me to have that kind of situation. So we'll see. Right, we'll see how it looks going forward, but that is kind of where I'm at with the standings as of right now. So now with that, we will go to the schedule and we will take a look to see who we play next. As of right now, the Pistons have the 4th toughest remaining schedule or 5th toughest now after this loss. After this game, the Pistons have the 5th toughest remaining strength of schedule. So that also plays a part into them possibly falling to 6 because the Bucks and the Pacers have the 21st toughest schedule and 25th toughest schedule remaining. And we are at 4. So we're playing much tougher teams the last 6 games. So up next, guys, we have the Raptors. That's probably going to be a win. That is going to be Friday night because it says tomorrow, but this is Thursday morning. So the Pistons play the Raptors tomorrow night, which is Friday night at 7:30. They should win that game on the road. The Grizzlies game, in lieu with everything that's going on with them right now, I think the Pistons will win that game too. Then they got the Kings. That could go either way at home, depending on who plays, who doesn't play. Same thing with the Knicks. It depends on who's available, if Tobias is available, if K plays or not, whatever. Once we get to these last two games is when I'm really beginning to pay attention to the standings. These next few games, guys, I'm going to watch them. I'm going to dissect them. I'm going to watch and pay attention, right? And we're going to talk about it. But I'm not really paying attention until we get to these last two games. These last two games against the Bucks at the bottom. That is what I'm focused on right now, because at that point, it'll become clear who we're potentially going to play. And I want to see how the Pistons kind of play and manage the minutes those last two games. They were tied with the Bucks going into those last two games. What are the Pistons going to do? Are they going to bring Cade and Tobias back just to have them fresh and have them in a rhythm going to the playoffs? Or are they going to make sure that they avoid the 5th seed in playing the Pacers and make sure they get that 6th seed and play the Knicks? So it's going to be interesting to see what the Pistons decide to do as we get closer and closer to the end of the season. But Manolando, I'm with you. I can't believe there's only 6 games left. You know the old saying, bro? Time flies when you're having fun. And this has been a fun season. We have not had this much fun as Pistons fans in at least 6 years. At least 6 years. So it's been fun. The beginning of the year, like pre-All-Star break, wasn't that fun. Wasn't that fun because we were losing. We started off 0-4 to start the year, right? So it wasn't fun to start. Guys were still learning who they were. Guys were inconsistent. They didn't know their roles. We had no identity because coach was still implementing that. But now it's a lot more fun because all those things are coming into form and we're winning games. So we'll see. You guys say you want the Pacers. You want Pacers Pistons. The Hawks are in the play-in. I hope to play the Celtics. The Hawks always give them problems. Yeah, they might go 6. NBA wants Pacers Pistons, says Marvin Tolbert. I don't know about that. But we'll see. Stop running and take our medicine. We're getting Pacers. I don't know, Marvin. We'll see, man. The way it plays out, we'll see. Bucks are a first-round exit anyway. Yes, they are. And that's kind of why I'm not too concerned about them wherever they fall, to be honest. I just want the Pistons to get to 6. So we'll see. Last year seemed so long. Yes, it did. We need Ivy if we play. Absolutely, we need Jaden. If we don't have Jaden in the first round, I don't think we have enough to beat them. The way they're playing right now, I could be wrong, and I hope I am. But just from watching them, and I watched them tonight, I was like scrolling back and forth on League Pass, checking the Pistons game out, checking that game out, just to kind of see they're rolling, man. They're rolling right now. Ivy smacked the Pacers up our only win. Yeah, that's the only game. Yeah, that's the only game. So we definitely have not won a lot of divisional series, guys. The Bucks, the Pacers, like we have not been able to beat those teams this year. We have not been able to beat the teams that are in our division. So for whatever reason, we just have not been able to beat them. And so I think that's something the Pistons really have to work on going into next year. In the division, as of right now, the Pistons are 5-9. So that's not great. That's not great. The Cavs obviously give us problems. We won the last game, but it's a tough division. So we'll see, right? We'll see what happens. I'm going to see how this plays out over the next few days. But like I mentioned, once we get to the Bucks is when I'm really beginning to pay attention. I'm going to watch the next game. I'm going to see who's available. If we get to that next game and we have guys who are not playing and they have guys who are not playing, I'm not really going to feed into it too much. They're probably going to go that way. Say we get to the next game and it looks like we may play the Knicks in the first round. I can see both teams sitting guys out to keep them rested and to not show their hand. Right, to not show their hand with regard to what they might do in the playoffs. With offensive sets, defensive schemes, you don't want to show your hand too early. So I think that would be a game, the Knicks game, that would also be something that wouldn't be of as importance or significance as it could be because we're not going to see the real team on either side, right? So we'll see. So I'll be back here with you guys tomorrow night, Friday night, post Raptors game. That game is at 7:30, as you guys can see. And I'll be back here 10 o'clock, and hopefully I will see you guys here as we talk about another Detroit Pistons win or loss, depending on what you want and how you're looking at things with the standings. But either way, we can all break it down together. So with that, guys, we are going to call it a stream. It's been a great show. I appreciate all you guys who are showing up and showing out. Dominique, as always, I appreciate you, bro, and everybody who shows support. I appreciate all you guys, man. You guys really do show me love, and I appreciate that, and I will always show it right back to you. So with that, I will see you guys Friday night. Hope everybody is safe and has a great night. And as always, appreciate you hanging with your boy in Detroit versus everybody. Peace.